Okay, so let's launch the afternoon. Let's launch the afternoon. The transition here is very much like a reverse of the transition in the Screwtape Letters, where the person is sitting in the library and having magnificent insights and rising to a vision of reality and, you know, very serious about life, and then leaves the library, and once the door opens and he sees the red buses in Trafalgar Square, that's the one that's being talked about, the reality invades his thinking and he's back in the real world. Now, we were in the real world in a very serious sense as we entered here. And what I want us to think about this afternoon in a fantastic way is what is needed to light up the real world, any situation in the real world. Sally is dealing here with the situation. I got on to working on the notion of situation in relation to functional collaboration only a few months ago. But it's an important jump related to my 2 pages here that you have from last week, from earlier in the week. The piece of the piece for a New Political Economy, Chapter 2, the 3 paragraphs leading to introducing the symbol DA. And the 3 paragraphs in method leading to, again I'm jumping a paragraph, introducing the symbol W3. And part of our collaboration is to find people here who will actually rewrite method in a fantastic way for different cultures, and not slide like Lonergan did in 66, 67 into the next paragraph of chapter 1, where he said, I am now going to try and introduce the basis. And this was part, as you all know, was part of my conversation with him in 66. His baffledness. What am I going to do? I can't put all insight into chapter 1. What will I do with the book? And he's pacing up and down his room in Regis College. And I had no sane advice for him. I mentioned, I think, on Monday that years later, I thought, well, I should have said, Bernie, you've written chapter 5, you've written the Gregorianum article. Leave it at that. Hang on to life. But he was baffled, and he patched the book together in a way that needs analysis and needs sorting out. Now, that would be the beginning of the book, starting with W3, which is one of the diagrams I handed out because you're not familiar with it. Some of you may not be familiar with it. It's that diagram of a spread of functional collaboration, which, if you cut it out, and usually I enlarge it, but I didn't have time these days, you can turn it into a tower, which has to climb in the next millennia, so that the top level of that tower is caring for the street. Now, recently I got interested in situation because The rewrite of chapter 14 is going to be an enormously different chapter. The first section in chapter 14 is quite clear and blunt and brief, and it's one of the two short sections in the book, and it imports the first short section on incarnate meaning into the word character, which is about 6 lines down in that section, on meaning and ontology. And the problem is he wants to compactly identify the persons who are going to handle the situations. And he uses the word character. And as you know, I throw that right back to Aristotle's first paragraph in the acceptedly Aristotelian book, the Magna Moralia, that character is defined politically. Now, on the next section is common meaning and ontology, and that's the problem of the plain meaning, as opposed to the meaning that we attain to. And of course, that's a question for each of us, and I'll come back to that at the end. I don't want to talk much. I want to get the talk going, but my first push is on the phyletic meaning, the story of being. My second push is on the story of each lonely being that sits around this table, and how can you cope with this impossible challenge. And my hope this afternoon is to let us have a sense of the frightful vision that has to emerge if we are to care for finitude.